All right, looks like we are live. It seems that pretty much every day during the week, Monday through Friday, all these major industries here in the United States have their hand out and need a bailout. The airline industry is asking for another bailout. I think they got an emergency $5 billion bridge loan. They're going to run out of that quickly. They're asking, I think, for another $25 billion in the next stimulus, really a bailout package that Congress and the White House may deliver. But the employees, a lot of the flight attendants at those airlines are not going to be beneficiaries, as the shareholders of these airline stocks and also the senior executives are going to be the beneficiaries. Meanwhile, on the regular dating apps in major metro areas all over the United States, you're going to see former flight attendants or current ones that haven't been fully fired yet. You're going to see them advertising their OnlyFans.com pages and their premium Snapchat porn online, becoming sex workers. And unfortunately, it looks like the Hollywood hypocrites have their hand out and are asking for a bailout too. And everything is fake in Hollywood. So you have fake, the acting. A lot of the acting is not very good. The special effects. You have fake boobs. You have just tons and tons, even especially the accounting. The accounting in Hollywood is very, very fake. It's meant to screw investors. The box office accounting for movies is some of the worst legalized accounting fraud I have ever seen in my life. If you want details of this, I will attach articles to the legalized accounting fraud that Hollywood and movie studios get away with, that the government protects them and allows them to get away with. Also, the FBI protects copyright on movies. The FBI, that is the only industry where the FBI is protecting copyright like that, even if you don't make a profit reposting a movie. So for those of you who are not aware of that. So a bailout for Hollywood stars is next. This article is from Tuesday, October 13th from Zero Hedge. A bailout for Hollywood stars next. World's largest movie chain prepares for bankruptcy in what may end up as the most poetic outcome of the global pandemic, which one has seen Hollywood star for attention C-listers take their clothes off in hopes of attracting attention. That's crossed out, making a political stand for either wearing masks or supporting the one presidential candidate who has all but assured more nationwide lockdowns are coming because scientists. The Hollywood's movie stars may be next in line for a taxpayer bailout. What could precipitate such an outcome? Well, if the primary source of revenue for Hollywood, namely billions in annual box office revenue, and it's Mulan, one of the major blockbuster movies was Mulan, and Disney really screwed that one up royally. There's so many ways that one was screwed up. Don't want to go into all the different details, but another major blockbuster film, Black Widow, the Marvel MCU movie, that looks like that may be on video on demand. They're not going to be releasing that in theaters, or it's going to be a partial release. So that looks like a mess too. So all these box office revenues that the Hollywood movie studios like Disney and others were counting on are not going to be there for at least another 12 months, probably even longer than that, but we'll have to see. Namely billions, but definitely not through the end of this year, and probably not even through the beginning of 2021. Namely billions in annual box office revenue is indefinitely shuttered, then movie studios and producers would have no choice but to apply a very major haircut to those $20 million checks they hand out to each of the movie stars. Ironically, this is the outcome that appears increasingly likely and complies directly with Hollywood's explicit demands. The Hollywood hypocrites. These are the same Hollywood hypocrites that espouse the virtues of socialism while they make investments in small businesses, why they make investments in stocks, bonds, real estate. Some of these movie stars have enormous real estate investments, enormous stock portfolios. You have Gwyneth Paltrow, and you have Jessica Alba, and you have all these other female actresses. Some of them have made comments about how good socialism is. You have Kate Hudson, and meanwhile, they own fashion businesses. Jessica Alba has, what, $1 billion company, the Honest brand, or one of those, for baby formula, and it's so hypocritical. I don't even know where to start. And we're not even going to talk about Pizzagate or Jeffrey Epstein or any of the other stuff. But the level of hypocrisy for some of these people in Hollywood is so egregiously high that the average person on Main Street just cannot fathom it. And one of the worst ones, and I'll bring this to attention here since I have a little platform, that the average person on Main Street does not understand, is that these movie stars are funding the campaigns and supporting you, Joe and Jane on Main Street, to be taxed more. They're funding the same politicians in California and elsewhere, so they will raise your taxes. Meanwhile, these movie stars, right, and they are able to hire the high salary tax attorneys, CPAs, tax attorneys, tax accountants, the best resources money can buy, so they can set up their LLC production companies and they can write off as an expense, and this is legally allowed. So they're legally reducing their taxable income because they're expensing away, vacations. They could say, oh, we're going to visit a potential movie site, or they can write off their plastic surgery. Oh, that's for a movie role. Or they can hire a personal trainer. Oh, that's for a movie role. They can write all these things off and in their production company LLC. So they're not paid as employees anymore, a lot of these movie stars. So they're not taxed at very high taxable income compared to the past. They all have LLC production companies to reduce their taxable income. Meanwhile, and this is the hypocritical part, they're donating enormous sums to politicians who will fuck you over, who will raise your taxes, and they're not paying the taxes. This is the worst, some of the worst examples of egregious hypocrisy from a financial standpoint from these Hollywood hypocrites, besides their investments, like Ashton Kutcher and others, into technology companies and other businesses. And then they go on public television, either on the mainstream media, and they just espouse the virtue of how bad capitalism is. Well, they wouldn't be rich without capitalism. So they made enormous sums of money. Then they're funding politicians who are ruining you, Joe and Jane on Main Street, who pay their salaries at the box office. So you get taxed and then they don't pay the taxes. This is how screwed up, how distorted, how hypocritical everything is right now. Ironically, this is the outcome that appears increasingly likely and complies directly with, but they're legally hiring the best people to reduce their taxable income. But the hypocrisy is by promoting the politicians and funding their campaigns that will raise the taxes for everyone else. So you can't get rich like your favorite movie star. Ironically, this is the outcome that appears increasingly likely and complies directly with Hollywood's explicit demands for continued social and economic lockdowns. The reason is that AMC Entertainment Holdings, known as AMC Theaters, the largest movie theater chain in the world, is rapidly running out of cash and is considering a, quote, range of options that include a potential bankruptcy to ease its debt load as the pandemic keeps moviegoers from attending and studios from supplying films, Bloomberg reports. So there's been a number of stories that have come out in the last, this week, and also there was another story that came out on September 24th. So on September 24th, we got a press release out that AMC Entertainment was going to sell up to 15 million shares of equity dilution. And then this story came out on Wednesday, October 14th. Shares of AMC have fallen nearly 60% since January. Its CEO, Adam Aron, A-R-O-N, said the company is focused on raising new capital, not bankruptcy. The company has said it will run out of cash by late 2020 or early 2021 without additional financial aid. AMC shares tumbled Wednesday as investors tried to gauge the likelihood of a bankruptcy filing. But here's on Tuesday, the largest cinema chain in the world warned investors that a combination of lackluster attendance and limited new movies has left it in dire need of financial assistance. Again, this is part of the cash flow problem. You have a business like a movie theater, which has razor thin profit margins. It's a capital intensive business. They need to keep upgrading the movie theater seats. They have all these expenses. They have to, if there's more minimum wage laws, they have to pay higher salaries to their employees. And they're going to try to raise the movie ticket prices, but then most people won't go see the movie. And this was before the pandemic. So now they have a cash flow problem, and a lot of these balance sheets of these movie theater companies were leveraged with too much debt. That was before the pandemic. But here's where it gets really interesting for AMC Entertainment. And these mainstream financial media articles are not covering this. So a number of years ago, this article was from 2013, and it was not covered in any of the mainstream articles. AMC Theaters movie chain was bought out by the richest man in China, Wang Jianlin. And you do not become the richest man in China unless you are either really high up in the Chinese Communist Party or you have the blessing of the Chinese Communist Party. So Wang Jianlin and his group is called Wanda Group. There's articles coming out in the last, during the pandemic. This one was from April 15th, whether or not they will bail out the AMC movie theaters. But as you can see here with some of the other articles, the Chinese investors that own AMC are looking for the U.S. taxpayer and the Federal Reserve and Congress to bail them out instead. So AMC Movie Theaters, not covered in the articles. AMC Movie Theaters is owned by the richest, apparently, they're not counting how much she is worth. She is worth at least $4 billion. Chairman, soon to be chairman, he has almost all the titles. He's consolidating all his power. Soon to be Chairman Xi, who's worth over $4 billion. But as of now, I think this guy, Wang Jianlin, is the richest man in China. But you do not become the richest man in mainland China under the Chinese Communist Party without having very deep ties to the Chinese Communist Party, or having their blessing, or being a really high up party member, or having a bunch of Chinese Communist Party members within your company, upper management, and on your board of directors. It just does not happen in their economy. Okay, back to the article. In advance of what may be the biggest biggest movie chain bankruptcy, in history, lenders to AMC who have hired Gibson Dunn as legal advisor and bankruptcy experts Greenhill and Company as bankers have held preliminary talks among themselves about providing the movie theater company with financing if it decides to file for Chapter 11 court protection, according to Bloomberg sources, while the fresh cash would keep AMC in business while it crafts a recovery plan, so some type of restructuring. Absent a wholesale return to normalcy, which is unlikely until well into 2021, after there is not only a vaccine, but a majority of the population is willing to get vaccinated, any liquidity injection into AMC movie theaters would merely kick the can for a few months. AMC's attendance since the resumption of business in the US is down about 85% from the same period a year ago, the company said. It's not just AMC. Last week, United Kingdom cinema chain Cineworld suspended operations because business is not viable as virus restrictions stand. Indeed, cinema chains are facing a chicken and egg problem with no near-term solution, as local capacity restrictions and audience skirtishness keep the U.S. theaters largely empty. Studios are delaying most of their major film releases into 2021 and beyond, which gives consumers still less reason to buy tickets. In short, as Rabobank's Michael Every said recently, quote, "The movie industry, how we watch them, and so the money for how they are made, if they are made, could be dying, indicative of a whole key slice of the service sector economy." You know, if these Hollywood hypocrites, if these spoiled, egregiously hypocritical movie stars, many of whom are disgustingly disturbed sex perverts or criminals, if they're going to act like this, let them fail. But unfortunately, they'll probably get some type of bailout. And while the situation, or they're going to leave California after they ruin that state with rules, regulations, taxes, and crazy socialist and Marxist politicians. And while the situation, quote, remains fluid, and so they'll ruin the next state they move to. Because their voting patterns are not going to change. Remains fluid because most people don't learn from mistakes. Remains fluid, and what's the definition of insanity? What did Einstein say? Or was it someone? I think it was Einstein. What did someone say was the definition of insanity? Repeating the same thing over and over and over? Repeating the same mistake over and over and over again? Quote, remains fluid and plans could change, according to the report. What really matters, at least to Hollywood, is that ticket sales have cratered because state and local officials are urging moviegoers to stay home. Ironically, so do Hollywood's own stars. But in a delightful moment of poetic justice, this may be one of those times when Hollywood's tiresome, grafting virtual signaling finally comes back to bite it in the ass, and also their egregious hypocrisy, and cause major monetary harm to the A and B and C listers, which are levels of movie stars. In fact, we wouldn't be shocked if Hollywood demands a taxpayer bailout next just to keep those $20 million checks to the lead actors coming. Alas, in light of the total collapse in NFL, NBA, and Major League Baseball viewership, so those are all the major three professional sports leagues here in the United States that were virtue signaling too woke. So their ratings have totally collapsed. Now that these organizations have also gone full yeah, that'll get me in trouble if I repeat that from the Zero Hedge article. Full political activist, something which increasingly disgusts at least half of America. We doubt many, if any, taxpayers will line up to ensure the taxpayers don't get to vote for the bailouts, though. So this is what the politicians and the Federal Reserve will decide. Taxpayers will line up, and Steve Mnuchin is not exactly a limited government, free market person, let's just say. He's taken money, Steve Mnuchin has, U.S. Treasury Secretary, has taken lots of money in the past from Chinese investors, as has most of Hollywood, for censorship. So they can get their movies done. They do tons and tons of pro-Chinese Communist Party censorship. If any, taxpayers will line up to ensure that Hollywood's liberals can afford to pay the property taxes on their $50 million mansions, although we are certain that those who pay no taxes will be most vocal in commiserating with Hollywood's dire plight. And then let me finish This article here from October 14th about AMC and the shares plummeting according to Bloomberg. Okay, back here. On Tuesday, the largest cinema chain in the world warned investors that a combination of lackluster attendance and limited new movies has left it in dire need of financial assistance. The company said it could run out of cash by the end of this year or the beginning of next year, unless the circumstances changed. Again, this is a perfect case study, along with the airlines, of the cash flow problem. And the airlines saved no cash. They spent, the senior executives at the airlines over the last 10 or so years spent over 90%, I think it's like 97%, of their free cash flow on paying out increasing dividends and share buybacks to boost the stock price. So the senior executives at the airlines would say this benefited shareholders because this kept our stock price going up, but also it benefited senior executives so they could continue to get stock option bonus, either salary bonuses with more salary or stock option bonuses and promotions. So the airlines were a major example of not saving cash for a rainy day. And even if they had saved cash, who knows if they would have run out by now, but at least they probably should have saved some cash. And financial engineering. The Jack Welch, General Electric, artificially cheap debt from central banks on Wall Street, financial engineering of using your free cash flow and using debt, artificially cheap debt, thanks Federal Reserve, to load your balance sheet with debt and then boost your stock price, keep it going up. And that's how you beat your earnings per share targets, by reducing the share count with financial engineering. That's how many of these large corporations beat their earnings per share targets after they got these stock analysts on Wall Street to lower the bar. So it's a combination of factors of getting the earnings per share targets lowered and then financial engineering, reducing the share count with share buybacks with artificially cheap debt to artificially boost up earnings per share. But the balance sheets of these companies heading into the pandemic were in peril. There was lots of debt and not enough cash. The company said, come run at the end of the year. AMC CEO Adam Aron told Bloomberg News in an interview Tuesday that its efforts are focused around raising fresh cash, which means share dilution or issuing more debt. More debt's probably really dicey right now. Although if you have enough bond investors that are claiming it's deflation, you could probably easily sell the debt, as long as the bond investors that buy the debt could flip it later to the Fed. Are focused around raising fresh cash to tide it over. So if there's equity share dilution, the stock is most likely going to crash if there's a lot of equity share dilution, to tide it over until the global pandemic restrictions are eased and movie release schedules normalize. And we are really, really far off from movie schedule releases being normalized. All the major blockbuster movies that were supposed to come out in the not too distant future are just being pushed back. Pretty much either Disney's considering releasing Black Widow, I think, on video on demand, like pay-per-view for Disney Plus subscribers only. That's being discussed now, or a very limited theater release, or movie releases are going to be pushed back into 2021, maybe mid to late, and mid 2021 to the end of 2021. Focused around raising fresh cash to tide over until the restrictions are eased, movie releases schedules normalized. However, a separate report by the media company on Tuesday said a potential bankruptcy was an option to relieve AMC's debt load. I wonder how the Chinese Communist Party billionaire and the investors at the Wanda Group would like that. I wonder if that would be tolerated. That report cited people with knowledge of the matter. According to Bloomberg, these people said no formal proposal has been presented to AMC. Shares of AMC plummeted more than 18% Wednesday, dropping below $3 a share. The stock, which has a market value of only $387 million now, has plunged around 60% this year. Recently, the shares were off about 14%. On Wednesday, a company spokesman told CNBC that AMC wasn't preparing for bankruptcy or holding bankruptcy talks with lenders, calling the report false. AMC has been focused on fundraising for months. The cinema chain already renegotiated its debt to improve its balance sheet this year and is exploring several ways of acquiring additional sources of liquidity. It is also trying to figure out ways to increase attendance levels, which have fallen 76% compared with last year. Actually, I think they're advertising some of the movie theaters around here. You can rent a movie theater for up to 20 people for only $100 now. I think I saw that around here going around the last couple weeks. That's how desperate they are. The company, and you can watch any movie you want, old movie, new movie, that's how desperate they are. The company said Tuesday that it is looking into additional debt and equity financing, renegotiating with landlords concerning lease payments, possible asset sales, a joint venture with an existing business partner, and minority investments in its stock. Much of AMC's cash flow stemmed from a lack of returning customers and a limited number of new film releases. So this is mostly a cash flow problem. Blockbuster movies have repeatedly been delayed until 2021 or have moved to streaming services. Coming to America 2. Oh, I didn't know they were going to do Coming to America 2. Is now set with Eddie Murphy. It's now set to move to Amazon Prime. This is one of my favorite old school movies. It's now set to move with Arsenio Hall too. And James Earl Jones is now set to move to Amazon Prime. That was not a good impression, but I didn't practice. Is now set to move to Amazon Prime Video, leaving only 3 major films onto the 2020 slate: The Croods, A New Age, Free Guy, and Wonder Woman 1984. I suspect Wonder Woman will be pushed back. Additionally, AMC is missing out on potential revenue from states that have higher ticket prices and high concentrations of moviegoers due to ongoing restrictions on theater operations. In its public filing, AMC detailed that it has been able to reopen 494 of its 598 U.S. theaters, but only at very limited capacity of 20% to 40%, and they're not going to make any money if there's that little capacity open in the movie theaters. Its remaining 104 theaters, that are unopened are in, there's bad grammar in this article, are in California, Maryland, New York, North Carolina, Washington, I guess Washington State. These theaters, although only around 17% of AMC's total footprint, represented nearly a fourth of the company's total revenue last year. AMC said it is in talks with local and state government officials from these states, but there is no clear timing for when these locations will be able to reopen. Meanwhile, what was not mentioned in this Wednesday, October 14th article was the large ownership from Chinese Communist Party billionaire Wang Jianlin and Wanda Group. No mention whatsoever in a CNBC article that recently came out. One would think that that would be pertinent information. But there was mention of this back in April 15th, 2020, from the Hollywood Reporter. Will China's Wanda Group bail out AMC Theaters? There was an article on that back in April. But why would the Chinese government or Chinese billionaires have to bail them out when they can get the Federal Reserve and U.S. taxpayers and Congress to bail out these companies, to bail out Chinese investors, to bail out rich Chinese Communist Party members that help promote propaganda here in the U.S.? Okay, I will take a look at the... Oh yeah, don't forget to smash the like button. I have almost 200 people watching this live stream show and hardly any likes. And I have one super chat question here. Thank you for the $10 super chat, Dmitry Shmerkovich. He is also a Patreon account contributor, one of over 1,000 monthly Patreon account contributors at only $5 a month. There is an enormous amount of unique content behind the paywall on a lot of good topics. If you want to learn about the oil market, natural gas, energy like uranium, why I don't like the coal market long term. Hint, politicians can ban it. They did not ban cigarette usage. They only taxed it. So in hindsight, cigarettes were not banned. They were only taxed. But politicians can ban coal. And the utilities are already switching to natural gas anyway. So I have a lot of coverage there on royalty and streaming companies, tons of gold and silver mining companies, and then there's global macro analysis articles there too behind the paywall. I'm just done arguing with people in the comment section who just watch 1 or 2 Jeffrey Snyder videos and repeat verbatim how good MMT is or how much of a moron I am and how smart and a genius Jeffrey Snyder is compared to me. That will probably get you, actually 100% chance that will get you blocked. I have a zero tolerance policy now for insults like that and bullshit. Sorry, not sorry. I'm going to make $5 in Google AdWords revenues if my YouTube channel isn't taken down, because my friends are getting their YouTube channels taken down now. So I'm going to make $5 off this YouTube video, working my butt off, finding all these different articles, and then making things entertaining. And then I just get nonstop amounts of insults and complaints. I got one really nice message from someone. It was the nicest message I've gotten in a long time. So thank you very much. I wish I got more really nice complimentary messages from people on my hard work. I just don't get nearly enough of them. 10 to 1, it's complaints and insults. It's more than 10 to 1, actually, for complaints and insults to nice complimentary things. Okay, sorry I went on a long rant there, but I have to promote my Patreon because I'm going to make basically zero now from my YouTube channel. Jason, how hope all is well with you. I noticed that as of past few weeks, mining stocks have been trading together with the market. Any concern? By the way, the NHL died for me because of the reasons you mentioned. Yeah, all these professional sports leagues, they're all talking about a shortened season. If they don't get fans back in the seats, it's going to be a mess. So I still occasionally watch some sports. I have the American League Championship Series on behind me on mute. I'm a big Dodgers fan, but I don't know. The professional sports are going full woke. So it's frustrating for me for that. But let me take a look at your mining stock question. So as of right now, the Fed's balance sheet, in my opinion, the Fed's balance sheet, the net decline in the Fed's balance sheet is over. So the Fed is buying enormous amounts of mortgage-backed securities. Lynn Alden just put out a very interesting tweet in the last 24 hours about foreign net buying of U.S. Treasuries. It is down enormously. They bought almost zero net new U.S. Treasury issuances. So the Fed will be monetizing basically all. The banks, the pension funds, the pension funds have already bought a lot of Treasuries. So it will be most purchasers of U.S. Treasuries. The U.S. corporations are not buying a lot either. So it's mostly going to be the large U.S. banks and then the U.S. Treasury. And then the Fed that are buying U.S. Treasuries. So the Fed's balance sheet in just the last week, officially it's up $77 billion. That is a big increase for a week. So it is almost at officially the Fed's official balance sheet all-time highs. Eventually, the gold price will reflect this. The underlying operational businesses for the gold miners are outstanding. They're in outstanding shape. So no, I don't care about short-term stock prices, about the gold mining stocks. What I do care about is the underlying businesses, which are doing superbly now. Gold miners are announcing great earnings, great margins. A lot of them are increasing their dividends. These are not stocks that you want to sell. These are stocks that you want to accumulate on dips. And I would not be surprised if in the next couple months we see that Warren Buffett and other value investors that are going to be copying him have started to accumulate the best gold stocks on dips. So no, I'm not worried at all. Because the Fed is going to be doing a lot more balance sheet expansion. I've highlighted this in a lot of articles behind the paywall for patrons. The Fed's balance sheet will be at $10 trillion. We were told this by the former New York Federal Reserve president in a end of June op-ed. The Fed's balance sheet's going over $10 trillion soon. Maybe it's 6 months, maybe it's less. It's going over $10 trillion. And that's going to be the new normal. It might be over $10 trillion faster than anyone thinks because the U.S. federal budget deficits are going to be $3.1 trillion. So you want to add $3.1 trillion to the Fed's balance sheet right now. You want to just add over the next 12 months, just do the math and just add 3.1 trillion. Oh, and that's assuming the Fed doesn't have to buy any more of those 1.3 trillion plus in new corporate bond issuances. And they were going to have to buy those other corporate bonds too. A large chunk of them too. A lot of those corporate bonds that were sold since first week of April, after the Federal Reserve did a bunch of press release manipulation guarantees. And there's a bunch of different ways. The Treasury Departments, President Trump with tweets, high-frequency trading computer algorithms can manipulate markets now. The Fed does it with press releases. I mean, that's a really good return on investment for manipulation. The Fed doesn't even have to buy anything. So no, I would be looking at adding more on dips of the best companies. So have your wish list. There's articles about the best ones. If Franco-Nevada goes on sale, I want to buy more. If Wheaton Precious Metals goes on sale, I want to buy more. If Sandstorm Gold dips substantially below $8 a share and they announce another large deal for more cash flow, and maybe with a short-term equity dilution, the stock drops temporarily, but they've added a lot more diversified cash flow to their portfolio and more growth, I want to buy more shares. And this is why you don't buy, and people do this all the time. I get messages, emails, comments. People always buy the gold stocks when they're going up. They always chase. But there's always paper price smashes. There's always the opportunity, almost always, the opportunity to buy some of the best gold and silver stocks if you are patient, to accumulate. Never buy, and I have this in all caps on every single one of my articles, never buy all of your gold and silver stocks at once. Never. Absolutely never. Under any circumstances. But people do it anyway. They ignore warnings. They do it anyway. They ignore my research and my articles, my analysis. They just ignore it. And when Sandstorm Gold was going up to $10 a share, I was getting a message, I'm buying now, I don't want to miss a move. Could have bought a lot more when it dropped down to like $8.20, $8.50. People just don't want to buy things when they go on sale. Unfortunately, this is human nature. When stocks are cheap, when stocks are on sale, humans do not want to buy them. But this is value investor wisdom. You need to do the research. You need to figure out which companies the baby has been thrown out with the bathwater. If it's a really good company like a Franco-Nevada or Wheaton Precious Metals, a Royal Gold, Sandstorm Gold, or some of the best gold miners like a Kirkland Lake Gold, some of those. You want to accumulate those on weakness. Kirkland Lake Gold's minting money. I think they just increased their dividends. It's a good company. Okay, let me see here. I think I have one more super chat. Oh, Typo. Thank you for the $4.99 super chat. I appreciate it. Yes, so lesson here. There are still lots of paper price smashes in gold. The Fed's balance sheet, it's bottomed. The Fed is going to be buying a lot more. They're buying they're buying an insane amount of mortgage-backed securities. That Wall Street is making even more toxic sausage. The Fed is going to be potentially bailing out states depending upon how the elections go. And the Fed's going to be buying a lot more U.S. Treasuries and mortgage-backed securities. The Fed's balance sheet's going way, way higher. Okay, the bottoming period that we had over the last 5 or 6 months, those days are done. The net, where the Fed's balance sheet was actually net declining slightly, those days are over. You're going to start to see the Fed's balance sheet. Let me put it this way. If we start to see the Fed's balance sheet on net increases go up $50 billion a week, $60 billion a week, $70 billion a week or more, the gold price is going to start to react. So if the Fed's balance sheet is up hundreds of billions of dollars from now in the next couple months, I would be shocked if the gold price goes down. It would be really good paper price manipulation and a really good buying opportunity to add more to your best gold stocks and buy metal if you can without paying high premiums. That would be an increased level of paper price manipulation. If the Fed's balance sheet went up a lot in the near term and the paper gold prices and paper silver prices and gold and silver stocks, the best ones, went down. But the gold miners, the best run companies, the best gold and silver miners are minting money at these prices. At least for now. We'll see if there's any bad mergers and acquisitions done. Maria Rivero. This is a really nice message. Thank you so much. Maria says, Jason, thanks for your well-researched and thoughtful videos. They are greatly appreciated. Stagflate and tax and lie is my favorite phrase lately. Unfortunately, it is true. But you have to expect and prepare for the worst and hope for the best. And that's all we have now. And if you go back and look through financial history, deflation does not happen for a long period of time. Now, under capitalism, under free markets, when we had actual real capitalism and actual real free markets and groundbreaking innovative technologies in the past, there was deflation for long periods of time and gradual deflation over very long periods of time. But in the environment we have, I don't think it's going to be allowed. We're starting to see, there was an announcement out on financial media that's going around Twitter right now. It looks like the IMF wants a new Bretton Woods agreement. And these are more things that happened after the end of World War I and then during and after World War II with the Bretton Woods. So normally these things are highly inflationary in terms of currency debasement. So there might be temporary deflation like we had for 8 weeks, from mid-February till the first week of April, when the Fed figured out the right witch's brew of manipulation, of press release manipulation and balance sheet expansion. Okay, well, that's it for this live stream show. I don't want to lose my memory right now. I'm feeling pretty decent. I'm on Hopefully I won't have a migraine for 5 or 6 hours after this, although I've been feeling a little bit better the last week or two. Thank you so much for people who actually send nice messages that are respectful and complimentary for my hard work. I put a lot of hard work in, and right now, like, YouTube is just taking away everything. So it's really sad. But the people out there who stick with me, you will be rewarded. There will be a lot of great research content, information, financial analysis, and education to come. And, you know, if YouTube does shut down this channel, I'll have to figure something else out to get the content out. We'll see what happens. Because some of my friends, like I think SGT Report, I know Sean listens to the shows, and Dave from X22 Report, and I think Dollar Vigilante, Jeff Borwick, I think their YouTube channels just got shut down. I have friends with Dave and Sean. I've spoken a lot with them in the past and been on their programs. You know, I know the work that they put in. I know that they lost. Like, most people aren't aware of this. Like, they were making a pretty good living a number of years ago. I think around the 2016 election, they were making like 6 figures of income off their hard work. And then just without any warning whatsoever, it was just gone. So this is the new normal now with the big tech, social media, the censorship, how evil these large technology companies are, like Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, Google, all these ones. It's just really, really sad how much power that they have. And this is not free market capitalism, because these companies have government protection for now. They are blocking competition. They buy up competition all the time. And then when there is good competition, they get their friends at PayPal to block payment processing. This is how messed up everything is right now. So I wish things were different, but we're in a really distorted, messed up environment. Lots of hypocrites out there, like the ones I mentioned in Hollywood, and we didn't even talk about all their sexual perversions, which will definitely get this video demonetized if I started mentioning those.